This is a brief description of how you would connect an audio source to Triggy. Of course, Triggy has 8 inputs, 7 of which are configurable for any signal that you want: audio, photocell, pressure sensor, and a variety of other devices. The last one is just the trigger input, which comes from the back from a digital port. So we won't be using that for any other kinds of sensors, but I'm now plugged into channel number 1 with just a standard audio cable. It's a mono to mono 1/8 inch cable, which will come with the system. And I'm going to connect that to a sound source that's coming from my PC. So in this case, I have just a 2-channel sound card, but typically the way you would use this is that you would connect 1 or more additional channels to Triggy and play 2 sound channels to a participant as a stimulus, whether over speakers or earphones. So in this example, I'll just play a click. You'll hear the click. And if I zoom in on it, in software, this is just a free sound editor called Audacity. You'll see that there's just a negative going square wave right at the beginning of that sound. I have a long period of silence after, so when I play it repeatedly, you'll hear the click followed by some silence. So in order to demonstrate Triggy, I'll just connect this sound source, and you'll see that once the notification sound finishes, this LED just illuminates once per presentation of the click. So that's a typical kind of an input for Triggy. It's not the only way you can use it, but a negative going click is the best way to use it. So let's look at another kind of sound source. If I hit stop on that and switch to another sound which I've created, this is a pure tone with much longer duration. This is 100 milliseconds long with a 10 millisecond rise and fall time. And if I play that, you'll hear it has a nice smooth rise and fall. And if I play it continuously, you'll see what appears to be a single trigger coming from Triggy at the onset of that sound. So I'm going to switch back to the click, and I'll just play that repeatedly. And now I'll start the oscilloscope software, and you'll see that each time there's a click, this negative going click, there's an output that is a positive TTL pulse of duration, approximately 20 milliseconds based on my memory of what I set here. We can look at some of the settings that are related to this. So from the Triggy main menu, I can select the right button indicated by this little triangle and choose, for example, a threshold. We'll skip over that and let's just select a duration. So I'll set the duration for all of them, and I won't copy a channel. I'll just start from scratch. So it starts right in the middle of the range. So I'll hold the down button. I'll come down to, let's say, 7 milliseconds. So now my output duration is 7 milliseconds. You'll see on this side that what happens is I get 2 pulses. So the reason for that is this output duration is shorter than the duration of the sound. So the click has this ringing that lasts longer. So by the time it reaches the end of the first output, it checks again and it sees another value that exceeds the threshold and it sends another trigger. So to avoid those double triggers, I'll just set this output duration longer. And you'll see as I increase the duration to beyond the end of those ringing features of the sound, that now I'm just getting 1 output per click. So that's kind of an ideal input, even though my sound card The sound card on this computer is not ideal. You can see it makes a rather awful mess of a click. It still can trigger reliably on the onset. If we zoom in on this by reducing the time base, we can compare the onset of the sound and the trigger. And you'll see that even though there's a little bit of wiggle here, a little bit of jitter, it's pretty reliable. Part of that jitter has to do with the quality of the sound card, but it also may have to do with the volume. So I'm going to increase the volume so that I'm more reliably exceeding the threshold on the first data point. And you'll see that the sound is pretty well aligned, even though the quality of the audio card is not great. So now if I increase the time base again, I can see the whole window. And let's just keep the oscilloscope running. We'll select to set that duration. So here I have the pure tone. I'll select the whole interval and just play it once. And you'll see that I've definitely run into the same problem again. I'm sending out more than one trigger per sound because this sound is considerably longer. So what I want to do is go ahead and play this repeatedly. Go back to duration. Just adjust all. Copy channel 1 and let's increase the duration until we see that it's generating just one trigger per sound. Maybe I want to increase this window a little bit so I can see the whole thing. So there we go. So now I have one trigger event that's being produced, even though it's a sine wave with lots of excursions above and below baseline. My output trigger is longer, but it is just one trigger. The advantage of that is you don't receive these extraneous triggers that you need to reject or ignore.